everybody. This your boy Jack Analog, host of Offbeat. Today we got a special guest, my guy, Doc Marcy. How you doing today, brother?
Man, how about yourself?
I'm doing good, you know what I'm saying? Glad to have you up here. You know, we talk about, we as producers, we like to talk about the things that happen, outside of tapping the past, you know what I'm saying? Just making beats, you know what I'm saying? First of all, I'd like to say thank you for coming to the platform, you know what I'm saying? To me personally, right, this is one of the most important things, um, like when I ask a producer, right, what inspired you to start making music?
That's a good question. So for me, it really started from birth because my dad, he was in the industry. He's a smooth jazz guitarist. So I grew up hearing jazz, smooth jazz all throughout my life. My mother, she sings as well, and she's just a good music enthusiast. And then my mentor, he was intertwined with Don Blackman, Bernard Wright, those kinds of
Mm,
people. So it was always around me. It was always in me. So I feel like it was pretty inevitable for me to start doing something musically.
that's that's a heavy start. So how did that, as you came along, getting these experiences, you soaking in all of this, energy, right? Like, how did that transform into, pardon me, I don't know why that beat. Anyway, how did that transform into, like how you started to get inspiration to start actually making music?
So I want to say 2000. Let me start from the beginning. So my inception to hip hop was Tupac's Keep Your Head Up. I remember
Mm,
vividly as a young kid seeing that video, and I remember what he was wearing and everything. And
mm.
outside of that, Hip Hop Parade, that's like still one of my favorite songs to this day.
Okay, okay.
So that was my inception to hip hop. Like before that, it was just music. But once I heard hip hop, I really didn't hear it again until I want to say 2000. I want to say 2007, 2008, because at that point I was listening to Sirius XM, the Rock the Bell station that's on there, and then Hip Hop Nation. So I'm hearing J Electronica for the first time, but I'm also going back and listening to, the old Naughty by Nature stuff, Nas, Black
Mm-hmm.
Moon, Who Got the Props, those type things. So,
Yeah. Who got the props? Yes, sir. Yeah, you talking my language, bro. Yeah.
yeah.
Continue, please. Yes, sir.
So yeah, I want to say now first I want to say 2006 was when I first started playing around with beats cuz my dad had all these programs. He had a keyboard as well. I'd like play with making basses on certain tracks, like play along with the radio and make basses, but I want to say I started taking making beats very seriously in 2013. That's like when I started making beat tapes. And I was rapping as well at the time. And for a very long time, that took precedence. I want to say from like 2013 to about 2023, I was like more so rap focused. And 2023, that was when the Jay Dilla documentary came out on Hulu, the New York Times one. And that changed my life. Like it lit a fire under me. I was like, yo, I really need to focus more on beats. So that's when I made the Doc Marzi Instagram and TikTok, and I just started putting beats out.
Mm. It's funny. You actually kind of segued, right? Because I wanted to talk to you about, like techniques you use to like market the music, you know what I mean? Or is there any type of branding styles that you might use to, in your marketing, you know what I'm saying, of your music?
So I definitely want to say that. Like I have a logo now, and that's thanks to the label I used to be signed to. They encouraged me to make a logo for like branding purposes. So now anytime someone sees that logo, they're like, oh, okay, Doc Marzi. It's like familiarity. And outside of that, I do like content strategies. Right now, I'm just doing loops. Like that's been my main thing is just making loops, something that somebody could hear and just keep on repeat, when they're going throughout their day or whatever. That's been like my thing as of lately.
That's nice. So like when it comes to like like networking with the other people. Like, I mean, like basically I was introduced to you through rotations, right? We had a mutual producer friend, Jack the General. You'll see him on the pod. He told me about, hey man, I be going up to Maryland every Friday, you know what I mean, at 8:30 ish, right? And they do this thing, rotations, where producers just play music. It was like, word. So, I go up there and look and I'm like, yo, it's some good dudes. And then you came in and I was like, you know what I mean? Cause you got a different, yeah. I mean, people, go to his pages because it's a different style. But me, see, I already knew, like, that's why I smiled so hard when you said the Dilla documentary changed your life. I'm like, yeah, I knew. And I was like, and it's the inside of me saying, I knew that. I already knew that.
Yeah.
When I heard your joints, I was like, man, this dude on some Dilla, like mad, like Dilla in between Dilla and Madlib type. I hear that, you know what I mean? Cause I'm, I'm I don't know, connoisseur. I love it. That's all I can really say. But I kind of dig, right? So when I heard you, like, I heard other cat, and I kind of can break stuff down. Sometimes like, whoa, but it was just like, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah. So I heard it from jump, man. But that was a way that I networked and eventually met you, right? So what are the ways that you like network and then like, through your networking create collaborations?
So it's really two ways. Of course, like going to different events, like rotations, for example. There's another event by Special Berries. Shout out Special Berries. He got an event. That's
Yo,
on
and
Saturday.
Professor M2
Yeah,
rotations. Respect.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, so going to rotations, that was really the start for me, going to Jones as well. I went to Jersey Produce last year as well. Shout out to those guys.
All right.
Making my rounds, going to different events and meeting different people there. And of course, like with the internet being so easily accessible, just meeting people that way, people like, yeah, man, we should work. And then me locking in with them in that way as well. That's pretty much been how I do it.
Okay. Yeah, that's I've learned too here recently that, because I was kind of a internet guy. I was actually into crypto. I was actually doing like music NFTs, It was kind of decent, but I mean, for real, I was more into that crypto. Like I was doing some things, you know what I mean? I ain't gonna talk about that, but I was doing some stuff there, right? Actually carried me through some rough times. But like for you, what makes you just keep going? Because like, one thing I want people to see is like, we deal through all the daily struggles. A lot of us have jobs, we got families, we got, right? So like, how do you like roll through your daily life and still, find that time to, take a hold of that passion that you love, you know what I mean?
Yeah, honestly, it's one of those things where like the personal life and then the music life isn't really as separate because I'm always doing something to contribute to the music. For example, when I'm at work and the times that I'm there, I'll like make beats on. I have a really weird method. This is interesting. So I'll like screen record a sample off of like YouTube or something or sample it, and then I'll chop it in a video editing program. I'll chop the clips like they're audio clips. And then I'll insert, like, once I finish making the full beat, I'll insert it into BandLab and then mix it, and then that'll be a beat I make. So like I started doing that when I was at work because I'm like, yo, I really want to make a beat right now. So for me, it's like figuring out how to do things at any time, even if it's something as simple as like in my downtime, taking a laptop to work and just cooking something up, or even bringing the SP to work. Like it's
Mm.
got for me, it's like I gotta get something done every day that's contributing to the craft.
Yeah, so that's funny. You're doing very well for me because you actually like you segue because like I was going, kind of talk about like what tools, what is like I like to ask like, out of all of the tools that you've encountered, right, in order to, make a track, produce, like which one not necessarily hardware per se. It could be, some type of software DAW. It could be a plug-in inside of the DAW, things of that nature. Like, what's the most difficult thing you had to wrap your head around, to figure out like, okay, this how this works?
That's a good question because I've used like so much equipment like within the past 2 to 3 years. I want to say right now it's the MPC one. That's been the biggest challenge for me because I've had it twice before, couldn't figure it out, sold it. And like now I have it again, but I finally figured out like a good workflow in that machine. But that definitely took me the longest to master. So I'd say the MPC one for sure.
Okay. So then let's flip the script. Which piece of equipment, DAW, plug-in did you grab a hold of and it was like just instantly boom, you kind of got a good flow with it and then you just started, you kind of take off. In other words, like what's your favorite? What's your favorite
Favorite?
one?
I have a couple, honestly. I'm gonna boil it down to anything Roland SP series. Like I pretty much have a good workflow with anything that's Roland SP. And then my Akai S20 as well. Like I got a good workflow with everything SP and then the Akai S20 as well.
Interesting. Okay, okay. Well, I don't have a SP. Like I wasn't even thinking about a SP until the beat battles, until I started going to the battles and then, I saw these guys, pulling out this little. Yeah, I ain't know. I was like, at first, I thought it was like one of them calculator type joint. I was like, dang,
Yeah.
buzz. Then I was like, hold up. Nah, man, that's just like, it's another form of the SP, really, right? I mean, kind of redesign, whatever, but it's more for live performance, and in essence, it actually made me uh dig into the NPC. I got the live too. Like I was making tracks in it, but like I only did certain stuff. Once I started seeing what people was using the 404, probably like yourself, right? I was like, wait a minute. I was like, you know, I know these knobs are assignable. I know they got effects. I was like, so I started playing with it and it was like, yo, I can, and plus I got my man DJ CeeLo. He was like, you can assign the knobs on the MPC, right? Just like a SP. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, and boom. But the SP is what made me dig into this, but I still want one. You know what I'm saying? And which takes me to the next thing, like, what would be the next piece of gear? Like if I'm gonna give you a budget, let's say five stacks, right? Up to five, right? Up to five, right? We're gonna keep it because we can get stupid, but we're gonna keep it, let's say five stacks is your budget. You know what I'm saying? What you going to get at Sweetwater or Guitar Center if you just like, I gotta have it now.
With $500,
No, I said stat 5 grand.
5 grand.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Forgive me.
Okay, okay, 5 grand.
I be talking about plugins if I said 500. All
Yeah,
right, yeah.
five
No,
grand.
5 grand. Yes, sir.
Cause it's like at this point I have so much, you know what I mean? Honestly, 5 grand. Cause
Now,
I'll probably buy one thing and have some left over to get some other stuff.
now let me add a little extra to that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you use in your production, but it can be something that you can use to help the marketing, promoting the business, the finances of the music.
Yeah,
So
that okay, okay.
I broadened it a little bit there for you. You know what I'm saying? In other words, it don't have to be the latest SP or you know what I'm saying? It could be, and I mean even a microphone interface, you know what I mean? Like, anything, it can be a production thing, but it could be something that is a part of it, you know what I mean? Like these are the things yes, sir.
Yeah, honestly, and this is gonna sound wild, but maybe it won't. I'd probably get an Akai Remix 88 just to complete my whole like Akai S20, Akai Remix 16 collection. I just get the the Remix 88. And to be honest with you, I just put the rest of that on like YouTube promotion. I'd
Okay.
like do some Google ads on my content on YouTube just to like grow my subscriber count, to be honest with you, because I'm at capacity at this point with everything I have. I don't really need anything else.
Right, right. Uh, that sounds beautiful to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm the type of guy, I don't have to have the latest and greatest, but what I do want is I want anything that helps my workflow be more efficient. You know what I mean? If it's something that comes in, which I want to talk about a little bit, like AI, right? Now, as producers, right? And I already know kind of the consensus is like, oh, nah, I chop my beats, I add my drums, I do everything, right? Which I get that totally, right? But then you have that aspect of efficiency, right? You know, but understand, like, before I go into it, I just want to know real quick, what's your take on like AI and music? How do you see it?
So I don't see a problem with using it as a tool, like, as a tool within the process. But if you're just using that solely with the whole process, like you didn't have a hand in doing anything and it's like the whole beat is just AI and you didn't do anything, then it's like I don't really support that, like the whole AI artist thing, with all these artists coming out of nowhere. It's disappointing because it's like you hear a good song and it's really good, but it's almost too perfect. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, is this AI? And you find out it is AI, and then it's like, I can't support this. You know what I mean? But if it's like you get a sample from AI, but you chop it and you add your drums to it and you like, mix it and everything, I don't see a problem with that, bro.
Yeah, I think it's the application too, like, because you said like something kind of key. You was like, you heard a song, you liked it, but then, I guess your ear kind of, got into play, right? Which everybody don't have that ear, believe it or not. But you had the ear and it's like, wait a minute, this something here that sounded a little artificial. We hear that stuff, when you listen to music, you can hear like because when it's real, it's crazy, right? So we hear that, right? But like when you thing is like so I don't even know what type of song. Like I know I've heard songs that have been written by somebody, right? Now they might not necessarily know how to sing, but they know how to write. You know what I'm saying? So now you have, and to me, and somebody brought up the point of like, hey man, it's just like if you ever been in the R&B camp, right? They have songwriters, right? They have the singer, but then they have the songwriters. So it's the same thing, right? It's like, and then they have vocal coaches, vocal producers, you know what I'm saying? So if you treat it in that sense, you know what I'm saying? And then I say the application too, right? Because, that's if you would put that artist like out on the mainstream, that comes with other things, right? You gotta have a actual person, but like if you, submit something like that for a cover for a Netflix movie or, a commercial, a sync license and
Yeah,
who thinks about them songs that they play in commercials, and a lot of them to me sound goofy. And I'd be
yeah,
like, I want to tap in. You know what I'm saying? Like I be hearing stuff. I'm like, man, I can do better than that. Right. And you probably the same way.
yeah,
So, but for me, I think it's just a application. You know what I mean? Like if we apply it right, it'll work. But like I gotta take it back because like when we talk about AI, right? You know, I tell a story about the drummer that was in the band and he OD'd and they had to stay on tour. So they had to get a drum machine to replace him. You know what I'm saying? That was artificial intelligence. You know what I mean? Like that's what the MPs, the SPs, like all the Ps, like they AI, man. You know what I mean? Because unless you have a set of drums in your house and you play them and you recording them, right? And you mixing them, right? See that part. So that's why the notion of like AI, I'm like, I can't really embrace that because if it weren't for certain types of artificial intelligence, I wouldn't be able to make music. Or I would have
yeah.
had a bigger barrier in order to create. You know what I'm saying? And that's what technology done for us, right? Is cut barriers. so that we can just create. And but we also know, which goes into the next thing, that we have to deal with certain things in the industry, right? Like nowadays everything is primarily done on computers. Even the hardware is still a computer, or it can hook up to a computer in some form or fashion, right? So talk about that aspect of like how you have to, maintain, or like any experiences you've had about, with things going down, or, drives, going bad, things like that.
The closest experience I've had with that is when I was more so primarily using Ableton, and then sometimes either I'd forget to save the beat or the program would crash. And then it's like, man, I didn't save it. So it's like I got to remake everything again. I will say with machines, I haven't had any issues as of yet with that. Everything's been smooth as far as that goes. And that's a blessing for real. But with like DAWs, I've definitely had some crashes for sure.
Mm. So it's so for you, you just had only crashes, like, where you're in a session and then all of a sudden it freezes. For me, us on Macs, we get the pinwheel, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like once you get the pinwheel, you go over and you check the program and it's like not responding. It's like gotta force quit. Now they got to where auto saves, which that's great. So you're not gonna lose. uh, in '08, '09, on no autosave. So when you saw that pinwheel, you was hurt because you was like, ain't that's when you start like saving every 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's the thing. And then as technology advances, right? Like, yeah, certain things get easier, but then other things have to be, more maintained. Like, like if no matter what type of system you use to make music with, you're gonna have to have somewhere to store it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to have somewhere to store your sessions, and then you're gonna have to have somewhere, it could be the same place, to store your bounce files, you know what I'm saying? Because that's two different things, right? So, and then as you making music, you building up storage, you know what I'm saying? I would hope in 26, like producers know, like, yo, if you, especially, it doesn't matter really, because even if you making, stuff on like a MP or whatever, especially MP, and if you haven't switched out that drive, because it's like a 30
Yeah.
gigabyte drive. If
Yeah.
you ain't switched
For
that out with
sure.
like a whatever, I put a terabyte. You know what I mean? But if you ain't, that's going, because I already was running into problems with that. So that's one big thing is storage. Because like if a drive crashes, you done. The second thing, and also, because you have that possibility, you also need to have backups. You know what I
Facts.
mean? You should back up your drives. You know what I mean? Because you don't know, you can have a surge. It's all types of stuff. So, so for me, you know, part of production was actually learning. Being a, a computer nerd almost. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
For sure.
I had to be, and like the older joints, I was taking out, putting PCI cards in and all types of stuff, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think people really see that side of production. They just think we cut this thing on and, start tapping pads, and then, and even that's what we show too, right? Like, you see people making a beat, but they jump on and they just, and it's like, yeah, and I'll see somebody making it be like, yeah, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? But it's like you don't see what they did before that. And then when they finish the beat, you don't see what they do with it afterwards. You know what I mean? Like those steps are all just as important as that process, even though what we actually get to see is the creative part, which that is in essence the dopest part, right? But there's also those parts before and after, and you know it can get deep, depending on how you approach it, you know what I'm saying? So most definitely, man. So like in 2026, like how do you, because you have a certain style. I know it, right? But like compared to, let's say, what's mainstream or what's current, you know what I'm saying? How do you feel about um you know, how do you feel about your style versus like, you know, whatever people say current, which I mean, if you ask the right person, you kind of dealing with a style that's, I don't know, retro current, right? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like, but how do you see that perspective?
Honestly, like I definitely know my style is different from like let's say I don't know what's a mainstream rapper like a Jid or something or a JID. I know it's a different style, but at the same time, if people like knowledge can break into the mainstream and do the no worries stuff and then have production on a Kendrick Lamar album, if someone like that who was before that, solely releasing stuff on Bandcamp,
Hmm.
if he can break into the industry, and not only that, if he could break into the industry and win a Grammy, then it's possible for anyone to do the same thing, I personally believe.
Hmm. Yeah, and, even with that, that's a beautiful journey, right? And that, they definitely, gain success from that, right? I feel like, there's a certain area, right, for people where, we can get into a space that, well, A, we appreciate it, right? And B, we're looked at as I can't think of the term right this second, but it's like we verified, you know what I'm saying? I think about guys like Conductor, right?
Yeah,
He's verified, right? But like he didn't take his verification and just like take it to the next verifier, right? Like
yeah,
to the next, if this can't won't jump and then, now he didn't do that. He took his verification to the people because he was already verified with them. You know what I'm saying? To the point where people pay to see his content. You know what I mean? And that to me, and then he's directly connecting. Like, there's what other way do we have as far as like music, but also personality, right? Because I think we're in an age, man. Like, think about the people. When I grew up, I mean, even prior to like all the crazy stuff you hear about people now, you heard a little stuff, and it's like, really, like people you looked up to, right?
yeah,
On shows or whatever, right? So I think we're coming into an era where people kind of want to know what you're dealing with. They don't want to say, "Yo, I'm down with them," and then you worship the devil or whatever. I mean, if that's what you like. But I'm just saying as an example, right?
yeah,
So I think people want to be able to, and then people want to be able to relate to you. They want to know, like, okay, is what they talking about real? Because like, we in the era of receipts, right? Yo, I got receipts on that. Yeah, you said this, but I got receipts. So if you genuine, right? That's my biggest thing. If you genuine with what you do, then you don't have to worry about receipts. Cause yeah, I got that same receipt. You're right. You know what I'm saying? They match. Cause that's what it's gonna be. So yeah, in a nutshell, man, I'm just saying like I'm saying be genuine. That's the best way for you to, promote yourself in this era. You know what I'm saying? And because people not gonna, they're gonna, I think people are more in tune with things and they're not gonna just take you for face value. So be genuine. That's your best bet. You can't lose. You can't lose. Yep. So what do you do what types of things do you do to like, what makes you want to improve on a certain thing or um like for example, right, for me, I'm always kind of stepping back and going and looking at other sources, right? And when I go into them sources, it'd be stuff that I'm like, um let me think who I don't know why this one jumped in my head, but I was so I'll tell you how I started. Sample Commodore Salem, right? And the guitar, man, was killing me. The bass guitar, no, who is this? So I had to look him up, you know what I mean? And kind of find out this dude messing with Smokey Robinson and Marvin Gaye. And I'm like, dang, like I ain't even know, you know. And like he was breaking out how like, yeah, Brick House came from I can't think of the song, but he said, "Yeah, we was just basically trying to make the same bass as that joint." Man, it's on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, it was a song in that same era. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, he kind of emulate that, and that's how he came with Brick House. It's just when you hear that stuff, man, and then you really dig, it gives you a different perspective on, you know, and you also gain a certain sense, and then you start really, and if you really dig, now you starting to like, yo, how he do his progressions and stuff like that. So for me, there's so much around me that I can never have like no inspiration to create something different. You know what I'm saying? But like for you, like, you know, what's your pools? You know, what do you use to pull that inspo? You know what I'm saying?
Me, definitely listening to a lot of jazz, a lot of smooth jazz, jazz fusion. Just listening to different sources to like try to figure out different progressions, different ways to chop things, what I could piece together. And then I would say probably the main thing is just being at different events and hearing different producers. For example, I was in the Beat Conductors like little cipher thing they do on Sundays, and I'm playing my beats and they're like, all right, yeah, this is dope. Yeah, I know this person doesn't know who I am, or if he does, cool. But shout out to Geology, man. That dude's beats are crazy.
Yo, hold up, and respect the geology. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, this was all about Doc Marcy, but he spoke on my man geology.
yeah.
He's gonna be on the podcast as well.
Okay, okay.
I submitted a beat to the producers corner, right? And what was funny is, I had just talked to G a couple weeks ago, right? And he was telling me, he's like, man, I be digging in on them joints, right? So he told him, I was like, yeah, you made me dig in a little harder, right? So, I submitted a joint and then he posted his joint on SoundCloud. And I was like, and I went, I said, "Oh, this the one he's submitting." So I played it. I said, "Man, this ain't no way." I was happy. First of all, when they played my joint, I got a 10. I was happy as hell. Like, yeah, I was hyped. And then they went through the list and they was like, number one Jack Analog. I was like, wow. So that's an honor, man. Shout out to the producers corner, man.
Sure.
Stress and Rocco. I'm gonna be rocking with him Saturday 2 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. So that was a great feeling, man. You know what I mean? Like 130 submissions, and I come up on top like that, and I didn't expect it. I
Yeah.
just like the fact they give you samples and drum packs. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, and then number two was geology. So like, but the top two dudes, man, and then Jack the General was like I think ranked 11. Sound Minds, I believe he was like 8. So it was 4 guys from VA in that top 12. We talking about worldwide submission, man. So that's why I'm like, yo, I gotta, and then they ain't even getting everybody from VA, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. I'm so blessed to be able to be a part, and I'm so glad I just came outside and I met y'all dudes, man. Like I truly I've gained a lot. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm just trying to, do whatever I can to give back to that. You know what I'm saying? I think we good for like one last thing. I just want to ask you, right? So, um, if you could go talk to yourself right at that age when you started, you was like, yo, I'm gonna get serious about making beats, right? Like if like say you like a older you know what I mean? And you could come back and talk to younger you, right? Or just say you run into a person that's that same version of you know what I mean? That 12-year-old that just bought Fruity Loops, or that 16-year-old that just bought a SP, or they mom bought them a MPC, you know what I'm saying? What would you tell them, like, how to get started, how to get going?
Tell them to not only tap in with their community as far as the producer community, but of course, trial and error always works. But one thing I would definitely say that some people do it, some people don't. I would say read the manual front to back. It's like one thing, because I used to not do that, right? Once I started reading manuals, it's like, okay, this is what I'm trying to do that I just couldn't figure out how to do. And it's
Ne-
like before reading the manual, it's like I couldn't figure these things out. And once I read it from front to back, it's like, oh, okay, so I could press this button and it does this. And then outside of that, like YouTube University always helps for sure.
Right. And it's funny because even before, there was always kind of some toots on, like YouTube and stuff, but a lot of them, weren't really accurate, you know what I'm saying? Or they were kind of limited, The information now is a lot better, right? But I'll never forget, because I used to buy like tutorial CDs, or DVDs, right? You know what I'm saying? To help teach me, I'm a logic guy, so logic training tutorial, whatever, right? And it was like I'm going through it, and then like in one of the DVDs, dude's like, yeah, because it tells you on page such and such that you should, and that was like the only thing. But when he said that, I was like, read the manual, like logic manual, And I remember I used to get the hardcover. It was 2 books, man. They was like this thick, both of them. You know what I'm saying? They look like library books for real. So
Yeah,
that's intimidating. You know what I'm saying? But like you say, and it's no different because now all of that information is basically in the software. Like
yeah,
you go to the help section, you can find out anything you want. You know what I'm saying? Like you say, you gotta search around because like I'm discovering new things and plugins I done had for years. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, I can do this with this. Yeah, I can do that. I would tell people to, whatever you get, I'm like, dig into that tool. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, like, yeah, like you said, we saying the same thing. It's like read the manual front to back, like learn everything because you got to kind of learn what it can't do. Then you can start going out to see, okay, well, what do I need to get it to where I want it to be? You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would tell them. Like, yeah, whatever you get, dig into it because, I can make a beat on the MPC. I can make a beat on well, I'm not saying I can, I haven't, but I'm sure I can make a beat on the SP, right? I mean, I made beats on Triton's ASR, so I'm sure I could figure it out, but I can make a beat on the Koala app, you know what I'm saying, on my phone. But in the end, it's like nobody really cares about that. Like you know, when you do a showcase, mothers don't care what type of machine, that's aesthetic. You know what I mean? And it's beautiful. I love it. You know what I mean? But that is aesthetic because, it's plenty I see just playing stuff on their phone and people go nuts, including, you know what I mean? So definitely it's not about the tool, I would say. It's more the user, you know what I'm saying? That defines, whatever it is that, come out of that unit. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't, be consumed, because I would love an XL, right? I don't need it. I don't need it. It's just something I would like to have or love to have, right? I don't need that. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what, because it's easy to get sucked in, right? Oh, it's the new greatest, like it's easy, right? And if you got the dough, why not? You know what I'm saying? Like, you spend money on what you want. Like we spend money on all types of stuff, right? So not telling you to do it, but don't feel like it's necessary, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Do it because you want that. You know what I'm saying? Don't do it out of necessity and don't let nobody tell you you need this to do that.
yeah.
No, they really don't understand. They don't understand. Yeah. But yo, bro, I'm gonna have to get you back up here, man. I just know, I think next time, man, I want to get into these the instruments, you know what I mean? What was you said a Kai, it was
S20, I got it right here actually.
yeah, yeah, let me see that jank, you know what I'm
It's right
saying?
here.
That's what I was talking about. I thought that was a SP. I saw you playing something on that. I thought
Yeah,
that was a SP 12 or 1200 or some version of that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, that's the Akai S.
Dope. Yo, man, next time we come up, man, we gonna have to. I think we need to talk about, kind of go more into your gear. You know what I'm saying? And
Show.
maybe how a little bit about your process, man. I definitely appreciate you coming out, man. But you got anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah, shout out the suppliers, shout out the rotations crew,
Pliers,
you know,
rotations.
shout out everybody, man, for real. Anybody I've come into to to paths with on this production journey, I appreciate y'all. Everybody's taught me something. along this journey. So, shout out to everybody for real.
True indeed, man. I would say the same thing, man. I've learned a lot, and I'm gonna still learn. I'm still, and I'm gonna tell you most beautifulest thing in the world is that I'm being inspired by my homies, like my people from my state, my town. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been inspired by all types of people. From the Dillas to the Pete Rocks to the Kanyes. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, yeah, even Timbaland and Pharrell to a certain degree. You know what I'm saying? But like this is different. You know what I mean? Like I'm amongst my people, and they lifting me up, and they like, yo, so like it's beautiful, man. You know what I mean? And I really appreciate y'all, and like I really kind of started this you know for y'all because I'm like, yo, they people just need to see more than just y'all playing beats at a showcase, you know what I'm saying? And understand it's more to it, but also kind of give people some inside info and, just know like if this something you want to do, it's not, it's just like anything. You gotta put the work in, the time, the sweat equity, as my man say. Yes, sir. Well, once again, we got my man, Doc Marcy. You know what I'm saying? Respect. Appreciate you coming out, my man. And like my man always tell me to say, Bumba Clyde. Peace.
Peace.